Hi, I'm Lauren Cheek, and this is the YouTube channel, Lornicopia. And today what I'm going to talk about is we'll be doing Gedmatch.com, and I'll be showing you how you can research your ancestry and find out what your autosomal DNA is and how your autosomal DNA matches contribute to your DNA through Gedmatch.com. The other thing that's cool about Gedmatch.com is that actually I had someone I've never met before that turned out to be a match of mine on Gedmatch.com, and they emailed me, and I found out through the email that she was actually my cousin through my great-great-great-grandfather, Roland. Roland was one of my ancestors, and she ended up having a grandmother that was descended from Roland. And even though she had a different mother and a different father, so her X and her Y DNA did not match mine, so much of our DNA was similar that I ended up being her closest match, and it turned out we were actually cousins that far up the branch. So I friended her on Facebook, and it's been cool. I've seen pictures of her family, like her grandfather looks like my dad. It's just kind of wild. But anyway, we did that through Gedmatch, and I'll show you how you use Gedmatch, how you get onto Gedmatch from like your Geno 2.0, or how you can submit to it from different genealogy tests that you've taken across the world. The beauty of Gedmatch is when you go on there and you match to people, you're literally matching from a contributor's database of their chromosomal material, and you can compare yourself to people who didn't test or aren't in the groups that you're in. And that's extremely exciting because you get a much broader perspective of what the DNA makeup is of the world and how you're matching them. And I've had some really cool matches since the last video I did, which was the Native American DNA, why it doesn't show up in your DNA test video. That's been one of my more popular videos. I've since, it's been about 2 years, I've done extensive research on my family, more on the European side, which has been fascinating, and I did a video about that as well. But I was able to get onto Gedmatch because one of my matches on Family Tree DNA wanted to compare DNA, and I did it, and long story short, I ended up realizing all the amazing things that it could do. So I'll take you on a tour of Gedmatch and show you how to use it, and show you how to compare your DNA to other people and what the groups mean, and show you my chromosome map. For instance, in the Native American DNA video, I did not show up as Native American at all, and in Gedmatch, when I compare against Native American populations, I actually have matches to all of the what would be considered, your typical Native American strands, and it also shows up as a part of my chromosome, and you can see it in percentages and actually as a chromosome painting thing, which is kind of freaky because it's just as bizarre and weird as I am. These are the next door neighbor kids raiding my car for fortune cookies. Hello.
What are you doing?
I eat a lot of Chinese food. Oh my.
Rugrats!
So excited. Anyway, so I'm going to show you how you go from Family Tree DNA to Gedmatch, and then I'm going to show you my matches and all the things that you can do on it. And of course, I have the door closed because the cat thinks it should sleep on my computer keyboard while I'm doing this. So you come to your Family Tree DNA profile, and when you do the Geno 2.0 on some other genealogy test, it will actually allow you to join Family Tree DNA for free, which is very cool because Family Tree DNA offers so many interesting things as well. And I'll probably do another video specifically on Family Tree DNA to show you what works with that and how I've used that in my genealogical research. But right now I'm just going to focus on comparing genomes to prove, certain ethnicity and things that you believe, or to disprove them based on your autosomal DNA. But anyway, you punch in your kit number and your password, and we will show you how you connect to the Gedmatch.com. So you come to your Family Tree DNA website, and you go to My Account, and under My Account, you'll see right here it has Gedcom Family Tree. And when you punch onto that, it will allow you to upload your X and your Y DNA if you're a male, or your X DNA to .com family tree. And what it does is it saves your chromosome file onto your computer, and then you have to go to gedmatch.com by following the link, and then the link will allow you to upload that file, and you have to, I'm pretty sure, know what the file name is, but it does have X or Y DNA in the file name. And you go to that on your computer, and you when it opens the menu, you upload your X and Y DNA, and then it takes about 2 weeks. But just to give you a quick look around family tree DNA, what's kind of cool is you see it has like your beneficiary, your personal profile, your most distant ancestors. You try to put as many names on there as you possibly can. It's not a lot of space. It'll even allow you to upload a family tree on there. And then it will show you, for instance, your projects. If you're on your projects, you'll see over here in this area, these are projects that I've joined because I have certain heritages that I'm curious if they show up. One was Russian nobility, Scandinavian DNA, all of which I have. Parker, which is, you know, one of my family names. Neil O'Neill, which goes all the way back to, you know, Scotland and Ireland. Celtic Traveler, Butterfield, which my original family name was Bootvelin, and Butterfield is a variant of that. So I found matches on Butterfield that show, you know, the relationship there between myself and them, being that we're from the same Y-DNA line. Anyway, but then you can come over here, you can do Family Finder, and I'll show you this later, like I said, but it shows all your haplogroups. It'll like paint stuff out for you. And this is family tree DNA. And then down here, it shows you your matches, your ancestral origins, haplotree, you know, which is like your broader group of X or Y DNA matches. And then it shows where people are saying that they match from in the world. That's very cool. But anyway, like I said, I will show this to you later. And then it has matches, which there will be hundreds of matches as you go on. It may not start out initially as having a lot of matches, but eventually it will get into that. But let me get off of Family Tree DNA and go to gedmatch.com now that I've uploaded my file, and it took about 2 weeks for the file to upload and for me to be able to have access to everything. But I was already getting matches the first day that I went on to gedmatch.com. So I'm going to get out of here and show you gedmatch. So here I am on gedmatch.com, and here on this side, I think all my information is off of there, it shows you all the things that you can do with it, right? So I'm going to remove that for a second, and I'll block the names of the matches if I see them, so I'm going to pause in between. But anyway, it has, for instance, 1-to-many matches. That's where you can take your matches that you're finding on here, and you can compare them to your DNA. And then you can take one of those out of there and do a 1-to-1 comparison. You can do a, I hope that you can see this. Let's get this over this way so you can see it a little better. You can do a X 1-to-1, and then you can do admixture, phasing, predict your eye color, are your parents related. I'm going to show you these two things, and I'm going to show you my 1-to-many matches, which is so fascinating. And then you have chromosome browser down here. Let me scoot that up so you can see it. Analyze your DNA file, you know. Anyway, so what you have is people who match one or both of 2 kits, and that's like your X or your Y DNA, or, you know, whatever. But anyway, it's very, 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 very cool. So I'm going to do, the first one is my admixture, because that was the topic of the last video. So when you do your admixture, what it does is it says, okay, what do you want to do? I want to do my admixture proportions by chromosome. I want to do chromosome painting. Okay, now this will show you what my DNA is. We're going to hit continue. Okay, then over here on the left is the key, and it shows you what these groups are. And I'm going to explain this to you real quickly because I had to look all of these up to make sure that I knew what they were and why they differentiate, okay? But because some people will see these descriptions and they, for instance, one guy commented on my page and he said, my DNA does not show any Aboriginal DNA. And I'll explain each group. So North Sea would be, for instance, Viking Nordic people. Atlantic would be the British Isles predominantly, and some of the people that are facing the English Channel. Baltic would be, you know, of course, up in Russia and the Baltic Sea area, also another, you know, potential Viking group. Eastern European would be Eastern European, Western Mediterranean. They have West Asian, East Mediterranean, which would be like, for instance, I have Anatolian ancestors from Turkey. It was called Anatolia back then. And then Red Sea, which would be, for instance, some of the groups that could possibly be Native American, because a lot of Native Americans have these markers. But it is the group that is, they're Arabic, but they are called, just one moment. So this is my first chromosome. If you see right here, the red and the orange, these are all your Nordic kind of groups right there. But then you'll also see the Red Sea group here in the slightly lighter turquoise. You'll see the darker turquoise, which I think is Southeast Asian. The yellow, which is Eastern European. I have quite a bit of that. I'm going to scoot this way so you can see the end of the genome. The hot red marker is, pink marker is Siberian and Southeast Asian, and then down here are little blips, and you see that it's all mixed in. But this is showing actually how my genome is comprised, and it goes down to the other ones. And then I'll show you other ones, for instance, that have different markers. Like here, I'm going to make sure the color. This right here on my second chromosome is a huge spike of Amerindian. And you can see that right there. And that's the Amerindian color. It's not the other one. There's another pink, but it's not the same one. But then look across the chromosome, you'll see how, Eastern European, Baltic. I have a lot of Mediterranean in here. Let me see what that olive was. That light olive. That was West Asian. So I have a lot of Asian DNA. But I'm also supposed to be descended from Hungarians who mixed with the Tang dynasty. And a lot of Asian influx came in through the Byzantine Empire, and then those Byzantine, women married into, ultimately Spain, and then ultimately into England. And that's how I got some of that DNA right there. But then you look over here, and this little kind of peachy color, I'm going to, right here on chromosome 3, is Oceanean. And the orange is... Let's see. The bright orange is Atlantic. The peachy color is Oceanean, and the other peachy kind of color. But this is the Oceanean color. And then also you'll notice the gray right there. Now together on this particular chromosome, I have the gray and that is Sub-Saharan African right there. And then Northeast African or Oceanean. Oceanean I think is what it's comparing. It's comparing Oceanean and Sub-Saharan, but it might be Northeast African, and so it's kind of hard to tell the colors till you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But yeah, there's my black ancestry showing through right there. And then you look across the chromosome. It's so funny. I have this one marker right here where there's a lot going on, and then the rest of it, as you go through on this chromosome, is almost entirely of the same genetic makeup on that particular chromosome. That's the autosomal information that's coming to me, and it's mostly North Sea and Atlantic, which would be my Viking-ish DNAs. And then down here, once again on chromosome 4, you see a little spike. It's like Siberian and Asian mixed with some Native American or Amerindian, a little bit of Oceanean right there, and then the other admixtures over here with the light aqua, which of course is the Red Sea group, which I said was actually a potential marker for Native Americans as well. And then here you'll see and there's a key on this, and when you get your own, it will actually show you everything. And anyway, but you can see these spikes. There's a little bit of Native American there and there, mostly European. This is on chromosome 6, and I can't see it on my video camera. Sorry if I'm like kind of all over the place here. And then over here, you'll see the little spikes on this one. But isn't it cool? It like shows your genes by color and by what group they're most closely associated. Once again, over here on chromosome 8, at this end, with some of the I think it's a mix of Asian DNA of some type. There's a big spike of Sub-Saharan African DNA right there as well. And then you go down, and you'll see the little pinks throughout here, and you have to determine the pinks apart from each other. But here on chromosome 10 is another big spike of Native American right there. And that's the lighter pink color that shows that you're Amerindian. And you'll see it again down here. And then you will also see it over on chromosome 12 and some Oceanean and stuff. How cool is that? But anyway, then I'm going to break this down into a graph, but I'll just let you glance through this. This is how complex your DNA actually is when you paint it out. And this is what it's showing, like these clumps of your DNA are actually carrying that information from that population. And as you can tell, I'm a mutt. Although I look like a friggin' Nordic Viking, I'm a mutt. I'm mixed with Native American and lots of different types of Europeans. And, you know, I have some, you know, obviously some Arabic and Jewish DNA and things like that, and it shows up color-coded, and once again, the black marker. Another spot over here, so you can see that I actually have quite a bit of my native and my sub-Saharan African DNA showing. But it's interesting how it comprises itself in each DNA. This is chromosome 19, and there's more of the green showing up represented, you know, and then down towards the end a little of other stuff. But predominantly, like all through this area right here, it's all that Vikingish DNA, which would explain why I look the way that I look. You know? And you can actually see it, sub-Saharan, Amerindian. And then you go down here, and on this one I have all that olive, you know. Let me see what the olive was again real quick. I'm going to page up. And the olive is Western Mediterranean, you know, which would be like Greek and Italian or something, which, you know, I imagine that just crept its way in through other ancestors. But anyway, so not to bore you, but just to give you an idea what it looks like and how really, really cool it is. That is my 22 chromosomes. Now I'm going to go back and show you another breakdown of it, how it will interpret it into percentages. So in here, if you want to try different things, like this will say admixture proportion by chromosomes, and this I'm pretty sure is the one that tells you, it breaks it down into a actual graph, like, well, it's percentages. It's not really even a graph, but here, I'll show that to you real quick. And you see all the things that you can do. You can like figure out like, you know, what your chromosomes are. You can paint the differences between you and someone else's chromosomes to show relatedness and figure out where you're matching on what chromosome, and it will actually show you what part is Native American and what part is not, and you can know that you are matching because you're European or Native American or whatever. So that's a really cool aspect of this. Because it would help you with your genealogy and also help you possibly find some names of your ancestors that you never knew existed. And that's the beauty of it. So we're going to go admixture proportions by chromosome. Druze. Druze is the name of the group that lives in Galilee right now. That's Arabic. That a lot of Native Americans have Druze DNA. We don't exactly know how that happened. It could have been there before we split off and became, you know, what we'd call races today. But anyway, yeah, a lot of Native Americans do have Druze DNA, and that was the DNA that I was showing you that I had a large part of as well as the East and Western Asian and all those other weird groups. But anyway, there you have it. Okay, so here you are, and this shows all of your different groups. I'm going to tilt this forward so you can see it. You know, the same thing that was on the graph a few minutes ago in color is right here. And then it shows you all your chromosomes 1 through 22. And then it will show you the percentage that you are of each. And if you notice, I have a lot more Atlantic and Eastern European and blah, 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 and North Sea. And that would explain my blonde hair, blue-eyed looks, you know. But also, down here at the bottom, it has Amerindian. And it shows the percentage. And as you can see, I'm not a great deal of Native American. I only have a few ancestors that were. And the majority of my ancestors were European, Middle Eastern, etc., of some very distant, long, past, amount. But this shows your percentages actually on your chromosomes. How cool is that? Now let me show you the eye color predictor. So we're back over here. We're going to go to predict your eye color. I think you can see that. I'm going to hit that. And then you put your kit number in, and it's going to predict my eye color. And it's really cool because it predicted that I would have blue eyes. And then it tried to predict exactly what the coloration of my eye would be. And it was off a little bit, but it did figure out that I had blue eyes. And interestingly enough, the color that it chose for me based upon my DNA and what my DNA communicated is actually the color of my little brother's eyes. Exactly, to the extreme. But it gets all the patterning and everything right. It's really interesting. So here it is. It has how it's predicting it based upon your melanin, and it's showing you the different parts of your DNA that block melanin. Because, of course, I'm built to be a Nordic, and I would block melanin to absorb more DNA from the sun. So, anyway, it shows you all this, and if you notice right here, it says the AA this is the exact part of your chromosome that it's on. It says that there should be medium brown on the sphincter of the eye. And if you look at it, for instance, it says blocks some melanin, often gives light-colored eyes. Blocks some melanin, often gives light-colored eyes. Low melanin, basis for gray, blue, green, or yellow eyes if no other pigment is present. Blocks some melanin, often gives light-colored eyes. Contrasting sphincter around the pupil, which is this area right here. And that is actually not quite as blue. My eyes are a deeper blue. They're more like the color around here with some of this white in them. But I actually have this pattern around the sphincter of the pupil. And interestingly enough, that's the color that they picked for me. But anyway, and then it says, like, for instance, medium brown on the sphincter, it tells you where you're at, and it gives you actually the combination of, like, your, gives that your DNA is ACGT, and it shows you the combination TT in a certain phase on your DNA. Will say it's a penetrance modifier for blue. TG is an amber sphincter, which I don't have. I have a very dark sphincter. And then it says GG at this marker says you have a gray ring around the outer edge, which I do have. And then you have amber colorette and then flecks. And I do have flecks of different shades of blue. I don't have the color around the retina. I'm going to close up on my eye for you real quick just to show you how it is. But I just thought it was incredible that they can see these things. That you have a propensity to have that color of eye, and they actually got it right on. And in fact, this is very, very close, a little darker around in here, but this whole area right here, my little brother has that in his eye, and my eyes are completely blue. And this is just to give you an idea compared to the other one. See how it does have the ring around the sphincter, and then there's a darker color of blue, but my eyes are like several shades of different blue, and they tend to almost appear to be brown to people who don't notice them in the light. They have a dark consistency to them, but yeah, fascinating. They actually could figure out that my eye color was blue. And here they're comparing your X and your Y DNA because I'm a male and I have both. So they can actually determine if your parents are related. And they can actually do this probably autosomally as well. But you put your kit number in and it will compare them and contrast them against each other. Okay, and then here it is at the top. Now, they concluded that my parents weren't cousins, which my parents are not directly cousins. Their families would have been separated from England in the same circles by probably over 250 or 300 years. But they essentially come from the same stock. And what it says is, and my parents have the same ancestry in a lot of ways, including Native American ancestry. But what it shows here is these are full matches, these are no matches, these are missing data, which I don't have any missing data. And then this is a large group or regions with a large group of S&P that show they have a common ancestor. And my mom and my dad's certain common ancestor would be, it is Louis IX of France and his brother, the Duke of Artois. And I am descended from both of them 7 times that I know of. And 1 time is through my mother, and I'm sure there are probably more lineages through my mother. But anyway, you'll see that down here on chromosome 3. But if you notice, I'm waving back and forth. There are very few spots on their chromosomes where they don't match, yet they are not cousins, but they came from the same areas of the world, and they have a lot of common ancestry, although they do not have the direct same ancestor in most cases. But this little dark blip right here, that would most likely be my descent from Louis IX's father. And then anyway, so you see how it contrasts and everything. And then I'm going to show you me matching somebody else to show you how drastically different it is, to just give you a reference point of how much they match and how much I don't match with someone else that matches me that is autosomally a cousin. Okay, so this is the 1-to-many matches. I'm going to have to scoot this a little bit. But if you see right here, I'm covering up their names. I want to protect their privacy. But what it will show you is, it will say, for instance, this is the kit number that you're matching. They're female. Details about the person. How many little glyphs on your DNA are being matched. And then it will say... are you matching on your X or your Y DNA? Are you matching autosomally, right? And then if you're matching on your X DNA, it will give you a calculation over here. Can you see that? I'm trying to cover up there. Let me see. I can't tell. But yeah, I think you probably should be able to see this. Yeah. You should be able to. So, for instance, this person matches me autosomally and on my xDNA, and H1, of course, is my mother's, and then this person is matching me autosomally, but only through my R1b. But an interesting thing is that if you look down here, you look at all the different autosomal people that I'm matching, and I'm going to go over that real quick and tell you what they are. But a lot of these are Native American. They're different types of Vikings. Some of them are royal lineages, etc., etc. And you can actually look through each match, and you could select them and compare your DNA the same way I did with my mother. And I'm going to try to compare it to somebody and show you how we match and show you how much different we are based upon our autosomal match. Okay, so these are where I compared to Native Americans that are in the database, and they certainly have an X or a Y DNA marker that's Native American, and they do not match me on my X or my Y DNA. So as you can see down here, it's showing the amounts of Native American DNA. But as you can see, everything else in all of our other chromosomes doesn't match. But on chromosome 1, I match this person here and here. Let me cover up the next name. Okay. And then on this person, and this is a female too, I'm pretty sure, which would mean that I have female Native American ancestors as well. This is on chromosome 4. It's showing a match here, a blip here. That's on chromosome 4. Then this is a male, and he had haplogroup Q. And this shows that on chromosome 9, he and I match here and here. So that could potentially be like we have a common European ancestor, but in all likelihood, we have a common Native American ancestor would be the deal. But anyway, as you can see, with my parents, when it matched, it actually showed a bunch of matches and then very small little blips of non-matching DNA. And for instance, with me and a Native American, I'll show like a little blip of DNA, and then all other 22 chromosomes, I'll have nothing that matches them. And that's the way it works. But yeah, there you go. How cool is that? So as you can see, you get into a lot of cool, neat stuff with gedmatch.com. You can do a lot of cool things on family tree DNA as well. So just to give you a brief overall of some of my matches, for instance, I had a match that was U5A1A1D, and that was the Sami, who are now called the Finns. I had a match that was W, which was Europe, West and Southeast Asia, and Pakistan, which makes sense. I have some Arabic and some Middle Eastern ancestors. I had an H match where we matched on some of our DNA who had an E1B1B1C1A match, which I'm pretty sure, I want to say that that's a Scandinavian match, but the H match on the X DNA is a Basque marker from, the Basque people. So I have a lot of interesting little matches going on here. One match that was really fascinating and didn't surprise me because of our mixed genealogy and our common ancestry was T2B on the X marker. And T2B is what Tsar Nicholas of Russia was. And it says that it's common in European royals, Jewish, and Saudi, and that group. Another group that I had a match to, I matched them on the H side from my mother, but I also matched them on the G side. It was a G2A3B2, and that was a DNA sample that was taken from 3 Merovingian bodies that belonged to Charlemagne's line and group of people from, France. And of course, I would be a Merovingian because I'm related to Charlemagne, and through Louis IX and his brother Richard Artois, I'm obviously, related a couple of times over, and I'm related through other branches and stuff. So my Merovingian shows up. One that showed up as a Y marker was 12B2, and that is one that's associated with Germans and Vikings. Of course, I had autosomal matches to people that had X, C, C, A, C, and X on their X DNA markers. And interestingly enough, one of the markers that's ambiguous, but that is a Native American marker, is X2B6, which is also native and the Orkney Islands, and Druze, which are the people from Galilee, and Algonquin. And a lot of people share that common, well, not that common X DNA, but the Druze DNA tends to permeate a lot of cultures. So I kind of omitted that a little bit when I went to find my other native DNA markers so that I would get a more pure picture, and I isolated out to the ones that were certainly not confusing. And I did the same, R1B1 is actually a big Native American marker. We don't know when it occurred, but long story short, it's a very Western European marker, and a lot of Native Americans have it. They don't know if it's from admixture since white people came over and started mixing with them, or if it existed from a previous migration, which I've touched on in my comments from the Native American DNA video. But anyway, yeah, then I had others that were Middle Eastern. I had some Swedish DNA, certain Jewish DNA markers from Europe. I had the Q marker that someone matched me through, potentially, and it was just really, really interesting. But yeah, you can find all that out from using this group, from using gedmatch.com, and it's such a cool thing, to see your whole genetics put out like that so that you can actually see them, and very educational. It's cool when it breaks it down for you. But the other thing is the interesting matches. Like I said, I had the cousin that met me through gedmatch.com, and our DNA was so similar, just like my mother and father's DNA. You would have so many similarities if you were cousins that you can tell that you're cousins even that many generations back, even when you don't have the same X or Y DNA. The other thing I was explaining in my, and I wanted to just briefly touch on some of these comments that I've had on the Native American DNA marker, but the interesting thing about DNA, I explained this in the last video, is I said your X and your Y, if you're brothers, for instance, you would have the same X and Y. So you can tell that someone's in a family. But your father does not have the same X that you do, nor does your mother have necessarily the same autosomal DNA that you do. And that's why when you do forensics and things like that, that's how you can tell, for instance, that someone's brother committed a crime as opposed to them if they find their DNA. That's how it works. It's like you would be able to tell from all the similar markers that 2 siblings have that they're related to each other. You could also tell, for instance, and exclude that it was the father that committed a crime as opposed to the son through DNA. And that's why DNA testing works. Now, what's happening with the groupings in DNA is they get tweaked every year because we have so many people submitting, and it's such an interesting and fascinating thing. But the groups are being refined, and they're also testing, mummies and bodies that they are allowed to test, and bodies in Southern America, for instance. Like, people have asked me about Native Americans, are they specifically from the Asian group? And I would say there was a large amount of genetic material that came from the Siberian markers, but preceding that, according to archaeology and DNA testing, there was a group that would be more consistent with what are now Aborigines in Australia, who are obviously a little mixed, but more like a black population. Also, the other interesting thing is there were the Florida Bog Mummies, and you can Google this as well. The black group was, if you look up Lucia woman, it's Lucia woman. It will talk about all of her tribe and her group, and there's like 33 different bodies that they've been able to take and DNA tests. They've also done the morphology of the skull, with a forensics expert, and she turns out looking like a black woman. So, black people seem to have made it here first, and then the Asian groups following after that, a lot of intermixture between there. And then there's the Florida Bog Mummy group, which is a Ice Age group as well, that end up in Florida, and I want to say it's Brevard County. You can look it up. They have a museum dedicated to them. But all of these mummies, they were full well expecting them to be A, B, C, D, or X, or the Q, or one of those, real obvious Native American markers, and when they DNA tested them, they turned out to be Europeans. They had very distinctive European haplogroups. So you just have to keep an open mind about these things. We're taught what we're taught, but all of that is based upon the knowledge that's at hand at the time. And our knowledge is increasing quite literally every couple of months with DNA testing and with archaeology. We're finding things every day. So the story is getting rewritten, and you always have to be open and have a free enough mind to embrace the possibility that things aren't as you think they are, But obviously we all come from one place. We're one people, and that's the beauty of DNA. As you see it, you're like, wow, okay, well, I'm all of these things, and I look like I look, It's just absolutely fascinating. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll try to do another video, maybe on family tree DNA. I'm going to do one on family tree DNA, and then later in the winter, because I have more time at this time of year, because I'm trapped inside, I'm going to do a video on genealogy, and I'm going to show you how to look through the Doomsday Book, for instance, how to look through ancient documents, and I'm going to do a follow-up video to, I did a video called the Cheek Check and Hole Connection, where I was trying to trace my family back to their probable surname, and then I ended up finding out a lot about other people that most certainly are related to me. I mean, they are, but I found out that my family name actually came from William Boot-Valin, which I had always heard but never could find the connection. I finally made the connection this year, and I'm going to do a video on that. I'm going to show you how the name change happened, as surnames were coming about, after the Norman Conquest, because nobody really used surnames, even in the same royal families. You took a name of a castle or this or that. So you have these families that are closely related to each other that have very different familial names now, but that are very genetically related to each other, even from the same branch. So I'm going to do a follow-up video on that as well. And then I'm going to do a video at some point showing you how to use resources like heraldry. And I've already touched on those. If you watch some of my family videos, even though some of the information in there, I'm just taking a stab in the dark. A lot of it is right on, and the larger majority of it is actually documented. I document it in the video, but it would be helpful to you in tracing your genealogy as well. And I think genetics and genealogy definitely go hand in hand, and it's amazing for me to see something in my genealogy and see it represented in my DNA through autosomal matches and things like that. It's just very cool. But once again, thank you for watching, and I hope this enriches your life. That would just make me very, very happy.